Hi guys, JT here, and today I'll be bringing you some information on the Fanatical's Halloween Bundle, Hellfire Bundle of October 2022. To help you answer the question, should you buy it? If you want to know more about game deals, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps the channel out. So let's get into this. At number 1 we have Song of Horror Complete Edition. A survival horror game that pays homage to classic survival horror games like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and Alone in the Dark. The song in the title refers to a piece of cursed music that could drive listeners insane and to perform terrible acts of violence. This game breaks itself into 5 episodes, featuring Daniel Neuer and a rotating cast of characters investigating the disappearance of a globe-trotting author, Sebastian Huscher, and his family. This game features fixed camera angles, which brings back haunted memories of classic horror games mentioned above. Although the camera angles sometimes get in the way, it is part of the experience of a fixed camera perspective survival horror game. You'll be traveling across standard horror set pieces like a mansion and an abandoned hospital. Your characters can also permanently die in this game, making you paranoid whenever you explore or investigate an area, hoping the villain known as the Presence doesn't find and get you. You could choose to opt out of permadeath, but the tension of the game does rely on this mechanic, so you'll be doing yourself a disservice. Each new episode introduces a new set of characters, so if your previous characters die, don't worry, you'll get more in the next episode. If Daniel Neuer dies or all of your characters die in the episode though, you'll have to start the episode over. The Presence is a constant malevolent force that follows and stalks you throughout your journey, and it is the main source of the game's many scares. The Presence also gives you a sense of stress whenever you're exploring or even opening doors, forcing you to listen carefully before you open and brace yourself for the next jump scare. It can feel extremely dreadful at times. The pacing is awesome, with long stretches of nothing only to be injected with a ton of panic moments later. Your characters aren't action movie heroes, so when the Presence comes knocking, all you can do is buy yourself more time by beating the Presence's hands that are trying to get through a door or by hiding and keeping your heartbeat slow. You'll get into a sort of a mini-game as you try to stave the Presence off. Puzzles will require you to gather items and manipulate objects. Clues are hidden throughout each level too, so it pays to open every drawer and read every file. The puzzles will all make sense once you tune your brain to the logic of the world. The tension really builds up to a high when you have to run from the Presence while solving a puzzle or collecting things. Now that's very scary. Song of Horror may have some quirks like poorly animated characters and awful voice acting, but if you've played classic horror games like the classic Resident Evils, even those flaws are part of the charm. If you like an intense horror game that will have you feel a sense of dread with a pretty good story to boot, then Song of Horror is an awesome game to experience. At number 2 we have Home Sweet Home, a first-person horror game based around Thai folklore. You play as Tim, and your wife Jane has been seeing supernatural entities, so much so that she's driven insane by it. One day you wake up in an unfamiliar building, unsure where your wife is, how you ended up in this creepy-ass building, or even where you are. You sought to escape this nightmarish place. As you explore your new surroundings, you will encounter different ghosts from the Thai folklore. You can also find various leaflets scattered around the area as you explore, so you can read about the backgrounds of these ghosts, what they are called, and how to deal with them. It is a really interesting read and gets you into the little-known folklore of Thai ghosts. All the while you'll be stalked by a ghost girl in school uniform armed with a box cutter, and she can teleport from one location to another via bloodstains. You can't fight in this game, so when she shows up you have to run and hide inside lockers, or make sure that you have something in between you and the ghost to break her line of sight. There is also a giant ghost in this game that will jump scare you as you explore or try to grab you through the holes in the walls as you are exploring. When you're out surrounded by ghosts though, you can take your time and explore your surroundings as there are plenty of collectibles to obtain, but the music and the random sound effects in the environment will keep you on your toes and your heart pumping. The sound of the box cutter retracting and detracting from the schoolgirl's hands can also be very stressful to hear, because when she spots you, it's over, as she can seemingly teleport to your location to stab you with a box cutter. There are also puzzles in this game, but thankfully they aren't too difficult and it is stressful enough, feeling claustrophobic and alone with a bunch of ghosts trying to murder you. Home Sweet Home reminds me of Outlast, but with a lower budget. It isn't a long game, ranging from 2 to 4 hours depending on how much exploration you're doing, with the last section of the game being the scariest, so it is worth a playthrough. At number 3 we have The Beast Inside, a survival horror game that will have you play as 2 different characters across 2 different timelines. You start out as Adam, a cryptographer during the Cold War era, who's moved to the countryside with his wife to find some peace. While exploring your new home, you find a notebook, and being the curious person that you are without knowing that you're in a horror game, you open it and your world just turned to hell. You are now tasked to uncover the mysteries of an unsolved murder that happened in a home from the past. The other character you'll play as is Nicholas, the resident of the same house back in 1864, returning to investigate a family mystery of his own. Nicholas had a troubled past, having spent 10 years of his life in an asylum. Unfortunately, the nightmares of the past have come to life in Adam's time period, putting his own and his family's lives in great danger. Both Adam and Nicholas have suppressed secrets and violent memories, dangers hidden within them. Most of the horror sections occur in the past, while puzzles and exploration happen in the present. The story is actually really good as they intertwine the two stories together smoothly. There are plenty of jump scares in this game, although a lot of them are predictable and over time you kinda come to expect them. The atmosphere is dark, literally, and there are some mechanics of light that you need to use. Some cutscenes are bloody, so if you have a queasy stomach, you've been warned. In terms of gameplay, you'll be doing the usual. Go find this, examine it, then use that to open a door. Oh look, it's a puzzle, let's solve it. In saying that, the puzzles are actually quite interesting as they help build the story, and some can be challenging. This game features multiple endings, so if you want to see them all, you'll be playing this for quite some time. If you're into a good survival horror experience with a good story, I would recommend The Beast Inside. And number 4 we have Hello Neighbor, a stealth horror sandbox game that will have you sneak into your neighbor's house. You're just a kid, kicking your ball around when you realize that your creepy neighbor across the road is up to something. Being a curious child, you decide to sneak into his basement to uncover his deep, dark secrets. This is a sandbox game, so how you get into his basement is up to you. You'll be breaking into his house, sneaking and hiding from this creepy man. Controls are limited to jumping, crouching and holding onto limited items. You are just a kid after all. There are puzzles to solve, and they do get quite complicated with keys to find, traps to spring and generators to turn on. Do expect yourself to get stuck, but if you stick with it and solve it, it is highly satisfying. Over the course of your break-in, you will find out more about who your neighbor is and why he is such a psycho. Your neighbor has decent AI, being able to reinforce his house when you get caught and thrown out, forcing you to find another way in. It feels like playing in a Pixar film, but a creepy one. So if you like a horror sandbox game like Slender Man, you will most likely like Hello Neighbor. And number 5 we have Buddy Simulator 1984, an interesting horror game set when computers saw limited use. You play as yourself in 1984, and you're trying out a friend simulator in the virtual world. The AI is programmed to be your buddy, with the main purpose of trying to keep you entertained with whatever it can come up with. The AI tries to impress you and assures you that it is trying its best to keep the relationship going. When conflict occurs, that's when the game gets interesting. Your decisions will affect the relationship between you and the AI, culminating in 4 different endings. When you reach the ending, everything will click, I assure you. You start out with just some text on your computer screen, playing hangman or rock paper scissors with your new AI buddy. But if you keep playing, the environment will change over time to a text-based adventure game, QTE-based battles, and simple lever puzzles to keep you entertained. However, the software is glitchy and the game will break a lot. It is up to you if you want to interact with the glitch or not, but beware, it is not for people with a weak heart. Be sure to play this game with a keyboard as you will be typing in commands. The QTE battles are quite challenging and will take you a while to finish each battle as enemies are quite tanky. Given that it is a QTE, do expect to fail a few times in your playthrough if you aren't good at QTEs. Every ending will unlock a song that can be played in the main menu, telling how the AI feels about you. The different endings will ignite different feelings, and it is definitely worth playing through. It may not seem like much, but the game builds a ton of suspense, mystery, surprises, and a satisfying story. And number 6 we have Hellbound, an action game that takes its inspirations from 90s first-person shooter games like Doom and Duke Nukem. The story is simple. You play as Helgor, a badass who has one thing in his mind: killing demons who have invaded the planet. Really, the story's only reason to exist in this game is to get you to start killing tons of demons. This game pays homage to 90s FPS games in more ways than one, like a character sounding like Duke Nukem, saying things that kids in the 90s will probably find amusing, like how ugly a demon is, or in Helgor's words, how f***ing ugly the demon is. Other than that, you'll be strafing from one hellscape arena to another, shooting everything in sight. It is fast-paced and accompanied by some head-banging soundtrack. It will remind you of classic Doom. You have access to several weapons like a shotgun, a semi-automatic rifle, a minigun, a rocket launcher, and a melee weapon called the Head Crusher, which looks like Negan's baseball bat from The Walking Dead but with spikes instead of a barbed wire. Going for the 90s first-person shooter feel, there's not a lot of hand-holding when it comes to navigating the area. You are to find buttons to hit to open doors in entirely different areas and explore the area to find things to unlock other areas. You'll be collecting health and ammo packs like classic FPS games. You can finish this game in about 3 hours, with secrets to find in each level and several survival missions that unlock after the finale. It is just another 90s style shooter like Dusk, so if you like this sort of style of game, definitely give Hellbound a try. And number 7 we have Remothered, Tormented Fathers. A survival horror game that will have you run around a mansion with nothing more than your wits to survive. You play as Rosemary, and you're investigating the disappearance of a young girl. Your investigation leads you to a mansion owned by Richard Felton, an old man who refuses to give you any information on the missing girl. Not satisfied with what you've been told, you sneak back into the house at night, and my goodness, the horrors that you'll uncover as you explore the mansion. You cannot fight in this game, so you'll be running, hiding, and defending yourself with household items. And when I say defending yourself, you basically grab a hold of a pair of scissors, and when you're caught by the enemy, you play through a quick time event to stab your pursuer, buying you some time to run away and hide. And when they see you, you need to hide as fast as you can or the enemy will catch up to you. Other than that, you'll be picking items up and finding doors to use the items on, or solving light puzzles. What really drives this game forward is the story. It is extremely suspenseful, mysterious, and the mansion and its inhabitants are just plain strange, which will pique your curiosity if you've played something like Outlast. The atmosphere is amazingly spooky, terrifying, and creepy, and it really adds into the experience. Areas are open and will have you run around the mansion trying to survive your pursuers while solving the mystery. Some frustrating bits in this game are some QTE sections that can be very frustrating during the later half of the game. In addition, there are only 2 to 3 save points in the mansion besides the autosaves that the game gives you. While this can be frustrating, it can also be seen as a feature, forcing you to be careful as you creep around the mansion not to get caught and building a lot of tension. This game can be finished between 4 to 5 hours and is a good ride if you want to play a relatively short and scary game for Halloween. And that's all for this Halloween bundle from Fanatical. This bundle is actually amazing with some really good horror games. Even though a lot of them were previously featured in other mixed game bundles, having them all together in one bundle is a brilliant idea. I would highly recommend it. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.